All right, awesome. Santwana, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. You can take your time with your phone. Santwana was just checking with her kids. My instructors know that you are part of my caregiver group, and that using phones and checking in with kids is a big deal. Yeah, for sure. So we have had several weeks together now, and it has been fantastic. Really quickly, before I forget, when we were on the exercise floor, I didn't film the section, I don't think, but I wanted to make sure that I talked to you about how we vary exercise, right? So we've talked about how we vary exercise.
Repetition, like how many reps you do, how much you load it, how slowing it down, speeding it up.
Yeah.
How much rest you take in between.
Right, all of those factors, right? So there's tons of variables, and we can actually summarize all of those variables in one main acronym principle, okay? And this isn't just for when you're doing one session, it's actually how you conceptualize your exercises in general. Okay. So the FIT principle is our frequency, the intensity,
right? That would be things like weight or slowing it down.
For sure, right? The type of exercise that you're doing. Okay, and the time of the exercise.
So would type be like eccentric, isometric?
Changing those factors are for sure variables that affect type. Using different resistance machines, right? So when we did the seated row versus doing the standing cable row, right? What kind of type are we going to use? And how do we adjust based on that? So that will, using dumbbells instead of a barbell, for example, is going to affect how your exercise feels. So you wouldn't actually just automatically do two 20-pound dumbbells just because you can lift 40 pounds on a barbell. Right? Because when you start factoring in stabilization, two 20-pound dumbbells might feel really uncomfortably heavy, right? And so all of those things fall under type. What kind of work are we doing? The time is not only our tempo, right? How quickly are we moving? How much rest are we taking, right? We can affect time. How long is our workout? Are we doing 25 minutes? Are we doing 50? Are we doing it for longer periods of session? So are you controlling time as a variable? Right? And your timing of that variable, which lends itself really easily to frequency as well. So how many of anything you are doing, right? So time being the amount of time it takes to complete the activity, and frequency being the amount of activity we are doing within that activity, if that makes any sense. So I think of frequency in terms of how many times a week are you exercising, right? And how many repetitions are you doing? What is the frequency of the repetitions? How many exercises are you going to do in your program that day, right? Are you doing supersets? Are you going to do 10? Are you doing 4? All of that stuff. But not even so much there, because I would actually, it's time and frequency, to be honest with you, kind of blend into each other depending on how you're breaking it down. But frequency really is about making sure that you're giving yourself enough to create a fatigue, but also enough to recover, right? And recovery falls under our timing as well. Right? Frequency, in my mind, the biggest factor is how often are you doing the activity. So again, we've talked about not wanting to do the same muscle group day after day after day after day, right? There is not only a higher risk of injury, but we're not letting the muscle recover, right? So frequency can be 3 to 5 or 7 days a week, as long as there's a lot of variety in what we're doing, right? So determining your frequency is kind of the first step into the process. And then from there, you're also going to subdivide and figure out the frequency of each movement. So let's say you've decided to do 3 circuits a week, and you're giving yourself 48 hours in between them, and you've got lots of time. You can do the exact same moves every time. The frequency isn't too high. But if you decide you want to train 4 or 5 days a week and you're doing them in a row, well, then we have to consider the frequency of each individual movement or of each muscle group, right? How often are we targeting that?
So that's when you would alternate upper body one day, lower body the
next.
next.
And you make different decisions in terms of that. Or even just say, I'm going to work biceps and triceps really, really hard today. And I might do some integration work with my upper body, but I'm not going to load them up the same way. And that loading is your intensity, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
And the type is the different activities that we're doing.
Is integration the same as whole body?
Yes, integration is whole body with the specific purpose of making the whole body work as one synergistic unit. Okay, so Whole body movements. It's a corrective exercise term that I've really come to enjoy using in my practice, because the issue that I have with total body is I feel like sometimes we lose a lot of the elements of form that we need, right? So here it's integrating what is happening in the lower body with what's happening in the core and what's happening in the upper body, each of those elements being individual and a unit, right? So it's more synergistic than it is just your one body and do mountain climbers, and it doesn't really matter what it looks like. If you are going to do mountain climbers, what is happening in the upper body? Well, we're stabilizing into a really strong plank. What is happening into our core? Really working into that stabilization, but also creating the opportunity for the legs to be moving back and forth. What's happening in the lower body? We've got activation of the flexors and the extensors, right? The quadriceps are moving are working really hard, and how we touch our toes and where our toes go will affect what muscles are being used, right? How quickly we're doing it, right? What's the frequency of the movement? How quickly we're doing it is going to impact the intensity as well, right? If you do that with loading on your body, some people will wear weighted vests. Well, we've upped the intensity, right? We've changed the type of activity because now it's gone from being a body weight to being a loaded activity, right? So all of these principles work together, and you can think about them in pretty much everything that you're doing, right? In terms of program design. And we've been working a lot on figuring out your program design. So a lot of the stuff you've been doing based on our work and based on the frequency.
Right.
But I just wanted to make sure you were introduced to that really simple fit idea.
I think I have a good sense of that.
Awesome. Yeah. All right, so based on that, now it's time for you to talk to me.
Okay.
Last week, we touched on some changing goals. So when we started, okay, I'll just revise where we were to update my prof. When we started, we had an awesome conversation about, oh my goodness, I need self-care.
Yes.
I need to do something for my body. I missed the days where I felt connected with my body, right? That sense of feeling whole with each movement.
Yes.
Right?
And a longing for a sense of internal strength.
Right.
And an experience of empowerment that comes from being able to call on my body to meet the various challenges of my life. Yeah, so definitely.
So, how do you feel we've done with that?
Good. I feel very empowered in many ways. I'll describe. I feel like I just feel stronger. Yeah. I'm just stronger. I also know that because we had an experience early on where I started experiencing some hip and back pain, and then we did these corrective exercises, and then it went away, and then I could start loading higher, like doing higher weight deadlifts and things without that experience. So I feel like, okay, if I hit a roadblock like back pain, there are tools that take you through it, right? It's not a stopping point. It's not an aging issue. Maybe it's an aging issue, but there are ways to get past that. So that felt really powerful. I feel really empowered because I've been creating workouts for a few weeks now, and
Santwana has rocked this, by the way. She has owned this like nobody's business. Yeah, it's been very cool.
And also I've discovered we already have resources, right? Because my husband has done a lot of working out. So we have books, exercise books. He's got all of these men's health exercise books. So I actually have what I need with the weights that we have at home, and I've been able to create workouts. I've been testing limits. So this last week with the workouts, we were talking last week about what is fatigue, what's 70% fatigue versus 80 versus 90. So I've been really trying to figure out what it feels like to be pushing without pushing too far, right? So as I jokingly say with my son, the trick is always to figure out how to push enough without going over the edge, right?
Yes, right.
How to keep moving forward without falling over the edge. So I'm looking for that in myself as well.
Yes.
That's empowering. It's empowering that I can just put on, I've actually done workouts in my pajamas.
High five!
Which is fantastic.
High five!
So I can just put on some socks and shoes and go downstairs and do my thing.
Yeah.
And it can take as little as 20 minutes, and it can take as long as 45 depending on what I'm up to down there. And the kids know where to find me, and it can be that easy. My husband has started working out. My son, I was already trying to get him working out. Now he's trying to say, I wonder how much I can push him myself, right? So he's starting to explore this idea. And yesterday I told you he got on the treadmill for the first time.
I love it. The domino effect, right?
And at one point, we just expected him to walk, but at one point we heard this pounding and we were like, he's running, right? Yeah. He's running. So he let us know at the end, a few times, he just wanted to see how fast can I go. So he's exploring that. So that's all very exciting.
Amazing.
So that's all great, yeah.
That being said, you hinted that we were ready to maybe evolve goals.
Yeah, I want to lose weight, right?
Okay.
And I want to lose it for good reasons, I think, right? And I've been down this road many times, so I don't want to fall into the same pitfalls I've fallen into before, which is usually I set unrealistic expectations and ideals of how I'm going to go about this, and then it falls apart at some point because I just don't have the endurance of will, or I haven't slept much this week, right?
Well, and
I have real life challenges that make it very hard to hold onto these sort of idealistic patterns of weight loss.
For
right?
what it's worth, you're not alone.
Yes.
Right?
So
like
I just don't want to do it
norm.
that way anymore, right? So my perspective is now, like I was supposed to do a workout a couple of days ago. I'd only gotten 3 hours sleep that night. I was just so tired, and I just thought it's just not going to happen today.
Yes,
but that doesn't mean it's done, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then I just have to figure out how do I pick it up again, right? And then just keep going. So I'm looking for ways that are kind to me, and I'm looking for ways that are sustainable long term.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm also looking to see change, right?
Yeah.
I want change to happen.
And you're ready for that change to be reflected not only in your psychological feeling,
mm-hmm.
but in your actual physiological appearance. That's
yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm hearing that.
Yes. And
Okay.
for me, it's actually not about appearance, because I've been overweight for about 10 years. I've gotten used to the fact that there are some benefits, I will say, to not being considered a traditionally beautiful woman, because people meet you with a kind of an ease that I find I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't care so much about appearance, but I do care about being able to get closer to my toes.
Yep.
Which this gets in the way of,
yep.
right? I do care about being able to use my bodies in ways that are easier to use it when it was lighter. I do care about joints and joint wear and tear as I'm moving into my 50s. So those are the things that matter. If the appearance would be a nice side benefit.
Right.
But I've come to the conclusion that the only person that has to be okay with my appearance is me.
I love that.
And so far, I've come to terms with the fact that the way I appear is fine to me.
Yeah.
The only other person who has any right to an opinion is my husband. And he is fine with it too. So,
well, and that's, yeah.
So there you go.
So I think that there are a couple of things that I want to go over really quickly with you. I've got a tool here that I'd like us to chat about. But first, what I'm hearing from you mm-hmm. is, yes, weight loss.
Yes.
But some of the things that you're bringing up in terms of weight loss are also actually deeply tied into strength and
right.
deeply tied into flexibility.
Yes.
Right? So, for example, being able to touch your toes, a whole lot of that is going to happen in flexibility of the back.
Yes.
Right? So what we want to do is make sure that we're integrating, right? That's a little integrate word.
Yes.
Integrating weight reduction into goals of also increasing strength to support the joints, right?
Yep.
Increasing flexibility, increasing all of these things.
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing from you.
So I want to maybe I misunderstand this, but having done yoga for a long time,
mm-hmm.
I used to be able to do forward bends when I was thinner,
mm-hmm.
right? When I had less belly flesh. Forward bends where my nose and my knees were just, I could kiss my thighs.
You're going to have a hard time doing that if you have a whole lot of excess.
But I can still I can still touch my toes. I can still get my hands under my feet in a mm-hmm. forward bend. So it seems to me that my hamstrings have to actually be more flexible in order for me to be able to do that kind of a forward bend now than they did before they have to almost overcome a larger distance, right? They have to stretch over a larger space.
I would think that sounds reasonable. I certainly wouldn't be an expert on it, but I think that would sound reasonable. I can tell you that the facility of movement would be improved if you had less girth. I can tell you that in general, your health will feel better.
Yes.
And that weight loss is often a natural consequence of doing the things that make us feel good.
Yes.
But weight loss also has some very specific factors that play into it. Okay. So in terms of this, we're talking about our fun little decision balance worksheet, because I know that we have talked about certain food strategies that do not work for you.
Right.
Right. And so food is and nutrition is a huge component of weight. It just is.
Yeah.
Right? And I would love to support you with a better sense of how we can integrate those two factors in a way that supports you in your goal. But my interest, as you know, has always been on the exercise, strength, flexibility, all of that angle, right? I am not a dietitian. I am not a nutritionist. I have a pretty strong understanding of how food works, and I can help you with it. But I'm looking for the things that are going to help us that I can actually control. And what I can help you control goes back to those fits.
Yes.
So some of the things that I would like to suggest for you, and we were just talking about it, which is why this is a fitting tool, is I would like to suggest that you join the YMCA.
Yes, okay, yeah.
And the reason why I'm suggesting that, before we get into the gains and the losses, is one, the frequency that you can do at home will always be the highest at home. But you live very close to this facility, and there are so many programs and options for your kids that you might actually be able to do more frequency here than at home, because we have a childcare that's free for members, right? And it's fun. They enjoy it. We have activities. We have basketball. We have things for Sajan and for Avani to do while you are upstairs doing your thing, and they can join you here. And it's a bigger space with more options. So there is an option to increase that frequency if it becomes more of a family thing. Increasing your frequency will increase your calorie deficit.
Right.
As long as you don't intake more, it creates more opportunity for calorie deficit. Here,
I can see joining the Y in January.
Yep.
So I can see working with what we were doing, but for a variety of family reasons, that's something John and I would need to chat about.
No, for sure, and that's why I was going to send you home with this. Right, we're not making decisions today.
Yes.
Today, what we're talking about is a decision balance worksheet. Right. So it's what will be the pros, what will be the cons, working through all of this. Why January as opposed to now, and how do we? And the reason why is knowing why January helps us establish what stage we're actually at. Right. So are we actually thinking about this, or are we deciding January is when it's going to be? Right, and that's a process.
Right.
So this is a tool to help you process that.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's just in terms of loading, there's more loading opportunity. In terms of exercise type, there's more type opportunity. And in terms of time, this is the one place where you may not have a whole lot of time. And when it comes to spending money, I think that we always miss the R, which is resource. So there is a resource calculation that must be made as well, which includes time, energy, flexibility of scheduling.
Yes.
Right? And cost.
And because of my kids, there's a whole resource in adjusting.
Absolutely.
Right? So we would have to set up we have to introduce ideas.
Yeah.
Let those sit in the brain for a while. Move from terrifying into the realm of approachable, into the realm of doable, into the and so that's one of the reasons for January.
And this is where I would like to suggest that we go through some of these, and we're just going to do a really cursory kind of let's pick one, because I'm going to send you home with this sheet. I think it's really important for you and John to work through it. I think it's really important for you to factor in all of these things. I know how change matters in our homes.
Yes.
But I wanted to introduce it to you so that you had an idea of how it works. And I love this tool because first it asks you to talk about your pro cons, your gains and losses for yourself. But it very meaningfully also talks about for others in your life.
So are we talking about the pros and the cons of joining the YMCA?
At this time we're going to.
Okay, sounds good.
Right? And it's factoring in what are the pros for the other people in your life.
Yes.
And what are the cons for the other people in your life.
Okay.
And we're going to allocate kind of numbers to it. So as you can see, think about the gains and losses you might face by increasing your level of physical activity. And I believe that this would be an increase in your level of physical activity.
Yes.
And then all the losses and gains. Once you've completed your list, you're going to score each item by assigning a number of 1 to 3 to indicate the level of impact on your behavior. So 1 has very significant impact and 3 has less of an impact. Okay, and then we add them up and it kind of gives you an idea of where you sit with it.
Okay.
So just for today, what do you think is a possible gain?
Oh, I'd be able to do a more intense workout.
So more intense.
get to use that curved treadmill.
Curve, so much fun, right? It's the best thing in the world.
And I was actually just looking up high intensity interval training for cardio, right?
Yeah.
Because it's more efficient time-wise.
I teach here, you know that, right?
Right.
I teach a HIIT class.
Yes.
You could come to my Zumba class. How much fun is that?
Yes. I'm a little terrified right now, but
so
I'll get there.
Increase of type of activities,
yes.
Right? All those things that we were talking about.
Yes. Okay. So we could do the swimming, Tai Chi. We've been talking about doing Tai Chi as a family.
So programs.
So and there's a judo program here that we could maybe look into.
So there's some good gains.
Yes.
For you, and you also mentioned programs as a family, right?
Yeah, so one of the reasons January would be we would consider transitioning into the swimming lessons here for the kids. They're doing swimming lessons elsewhere, and so that's a big change.
Mm-hmm.
But
I could teach them.
Yes, if it goes smoothly.
I actually really could, because I do a lot of the one-on-one teaching, and I do a fair amount of teaching here in general.
Okay, so yeah.
So if we were looking for somebody to help transition that,
yes.
I would be the person who helps transition kids with unique needs into our integrated program.
Okay.
So
that would be one of the gains. Losses, it's less convenient than just using my exercise equipment at home, where it takes me 5 minutes to get down there.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
So the losses, I have to be prepared to meet the challenges of transitioning my kids.
So we've got change just in general.
Yeah.
I'm going to give change a great big one.
Yeah.
Change is a really big one.
It can be big ones.
Yeah.
So although they have been here, we've tried it once. My kids are not as excited about the pool here as elsewhere because
it's a less exciting pool.
And it doesn't have a big deep end, which they.
Oh, you know that the teach pool goes down though, right? So it has a whole other deep pool.
Okay. So maybe I'll have to find out when.
That whole teach pool that's shallow during lessons actually goes down during public swimming and is a whole deep end.
Okay, well that's good to know because Sajin likes to do all of his stuff underwater.
Yeah.
So, so that was one of the challenges. The kids are keener on Terwilliger that way. And the cost, there is a financial commitment, and I'm worried because we've done it before. We make plans. We invest in those plans, and we don't manage to follow through on those plans.
I will tell you that one of the things that I like best about the YMCA is that there is no cancellation fee.
Right.
There is no punishment, and you can suspend memberships.
Right. For like.
So in terms of cost, that is where this is a facility that could really meet your needs in ways, because I also work for St. Albert, and in ways that St. Albert could not necessarily meet your needs.
Right.
So something to consider.
Right.
So let's put our numbers to this, right? Intensity in terms of gains on a scale of 1 to 3, with 3 being the least impactful and 1 being the most impactful.
I think the intensity would really help. If I can also get over my own shyness about working out in a space with other people, that's one of my, at home, I can grunt and do all that stuff.
But we have a pull-up machine. Pull-ups.
Yes. Oh yeah, no, that chin-up thing is
so much
the
fun.
Chin-ups. It's awesome.
Yeah.
My husband would even probably love that. So I could see that being that intensity. I'd put that as a 1. That's nice to be able to have that. What was there?
We've got type and we've got programs.
Yeah.
But we'll just go through it quickly because I'm going to send this home because this is only a cursory list. Right?
In terms of convenience, would I lose? I'd put that as a 2. Right now it's really nice to be able to do things downstairs. And what was the second one?
Just being shy in general, being at the gym.
I'd put that as a 3.
Okay.
Because it's the sort of thing I can turn off too.
For sure.
So,
and then for others in your life, there's some gains.
So the swimming program could be a 2 if it turns out, like if it goes well. Things like Tai Chi, that could be a gain too. So I would say 2 for that.
2 to 3? Or 2 for programs and lessons? Okay.
Yeah.
And then cost. Because we've already established that change is the biggest one.
Yeah, so cost, I would put it at a 2.
Okay.
And maybe even a 3 because the swimming lessons get included, so we'd be sort of trading one cost for another.
Yeah.
So, so we'd have, that'd probably be a 2. Yeah.
Awesome. So when we go through and we add up your scores, once you have everything, then you add up your scores, and that brings you to page 2 here, which is, do your total scores for the gains outweigh the losses? Right? So
these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You want these to be, because we've said 1 is low.
I'm a little bit confused by this. Yeah.
I bet you we did it backwards.
Score a number from 1 to 3, indicating the level of impact that your item has on your behavior. 1, it has a significant impact. Oh, so on your resistance to doing it.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so we did it backwards.
So why don't we just do it and say we want our gains to be lower than our losses?
Yeah, we want our gains to be lower than our
So this
losses.
works out to 6.
Yeah.
And this works out to 3, 6, 8. Yeah, so our gains are lower than our losses.
So at this stage, based on our first cursory kind of instinct, it seems like it would be a good idea. Certainly worth considering it with John, because if it had come back differently and you had nothing but losses, and there's no real conversation to be had, right?
Yeah, that's the other thing. One of the things about working out at home is it's something that we can easily do as a family. John does feel a little left out because we homeschool, and so it would be something that the three of us end up doing a lot together, and sometimes it's harder for him to integrate with that.
For sure.
And there's so many things that the three of us do together that he has a hard time, because he's gone all day, integrating with. So when we talked about a Y membership in the past, one of the things he was saying was, well, it makes sense for the three of you. Does it really make sense for me also? And because it would be an evening weekend thing for him, and how would he fit into all of that? So
I think that those are really important conversations to have, for sure. And that's exactly why it's a question of taking this home, I think, and really thinking through, right, what are the possible gains, what are the losses, and how do you manage it? There's an awful lot that happens on evenings and weekends.
Here.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. I know how hard it is to get my son out.
I
of the house
understand that as well.
And if it's going to be during busier times, it's harder.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Strategies for success here, for tipping the balance further in your favor on the assumption that increasing the intensity, that the gains are saying, right? So one is you have to look at John and the kids, right? How does this change impact them? How do we transition that? Because that's a pretty big deal.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
2, I'm hearing from you that convenience was a factor.
Yes.
Right? And convenience comes back a lot. So how do you make this part of your routine? Right?
Yes.
And thinking through, can you make this part of the routine? And can you plan your life around creating a routine with it?
Yes.
Right? And routine is how we run our life.
Yes.
Right?
And I think 3 would be, for me, how could I set it up so that the kids develop a level of comfort doing one thing while I'm doing something else? So for instance, if we could figure out a way to set it up so that you're more and more comfortable, because they're both competent swimmers, they're more and more comfortable being in the pool by themselves, the two of them, while I'm up here, or some,
So a transition plan.
Yes.
Okay.
To kind of help them, or transition into the classes,
Right.
So.
Awesome. So I'm going to leave this with you.
Okay.
Okay, because I'd like you to work through it a little bit more in your head. I know that you already have, because we've talked about this kind of thing before.
Yeah.
Okay. But I feel like you are ready for the next step.
Which is?
The next step, whatever that might
Okay.
be. So if it winds up not being this,
Yes.
because we've changed our goals, right?
Yes.
So it's not when we do stages of change, it's not linear.
Yes.
Right? We flux throughout various different stages of change and goals throughout our life.
Yeah.
Right? So as a goal changes and shifts away, now that we have a routine and now that you've met a lot of those original goals, well, now the goal has changed a bit.
Right.
And so now we're at a different stage of change around it.
Yeah.
Right? We know that we want to see a different physiological impact. We know that we want to see a weight reduction. We know that means approaching the goal a little bit differently.
Yes.
And I think that we are this close to actioning it, but we need a plan.
Yes.
So we are going to figure out that plan over the next few weeks.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds good.
Awesome. That is what I need from you today. Thank you for your time and your candidness and for being amazing as always.
Thanks, Sita.
This was so much fun. All right. Okay. Bye, everybody.